What's going on, guys? It's J-Ho bringing you a brand new video, and today we got my top 5 favorite exotic weapons from Destiny 1. So quick disclaimer before we get into the video, these are my personal top 5 favorite exotics from Destiny 1. They're based on my personal opinion, so you guys may have different choices or a different top 5 in general, but these are based off of my opinions, and I pretty much based them off of how effective they were in various activities, as well as how much I enjoyed using these specific weapons. And also, if you guys missed my previous top 5, I did a top 5 favorite legendary weapons. I'll leave the link down in the description below if you guys missed that and you want to check it out. But anyways, let's get straight into the top 5. Starting off with my number 5 favorite weapon, we got the Thorn exotic hand cannon. So the Thorn has been a topic of conversation for quite a while, pretty much the entirety of Destiny 1's lifespan. And it's been such a prominent hand cannon in the game. It is very unique in its own right, and that's what sets it apart from the other hand cannons in the game. I was drawn to the design of the gun as well as how effective it was back in year 1. Even though a lot of people dislike the meta of Thorn and Last Word and how powerful those two guns were, I still personally enjoyed that meta in comparison to some of the other metas that we've seen up to this point in Destiny 1. But I really like that meta. I thought it was very fun just because everyone was using a set of specific guns. And even though a lot of the abilities as well as the guns were very overpowered, we also had powerful shotguns like Fellwinter's Lie, Matador, Party Crasher, all with shot package. And it just made everything overpowered in general, but it was still very fun. So overall, even though there was a lot of criticisms tied to this weapon, I really enjoyed using the Thorn throughout Destiny 1's lifespan. And it was a very unique weapon. And also what I liked about this weapon is in terms of acquiring it, it was very unique. And it pretty much started what we now know as quests, since this was one of the first weapons that we had to go through a series of tasks to acquire it. So that's why I really like the Thorn, and I thought it was very unique and fun to use in Destiny 1. Moving on to my number 4 favorite exotic, we got the Sleeper Simulant. So the Sleeper Simulant was a weapon that came out in the Taken King, and it's a very unique weapon because it is the only fusion rifle that is in the heavy weapon slot. So after first seeing how the Sleeper Simulant looked and was used for the very first time, I was already intrigued by this weapon, and I thought it was really cool that it was a very powerful weapon that can deal a high amount of damage through just a laser beam burst of energy. So that was really interesting for me in terms of wanting to acquire and try out this weapon. And this was also a weapon that had a quest tied to it. I thought it was pretty cool. Not as difficult as some of the other quests that we've seen in the later half of Destiny 1, but also it was pretty fun just trying to go through steps of a quest to acquire this weapon and build it pretty much from scratch. And then being able to use it after that was really fun as well. Very effective, especially in PvE, for dealing out a ton of damage. So that's what I really liked about it. And I thought it was overall pretty cool and a very unique and interesting weapon. Next up, for my number 3 favorite weapon, we got the Raze Lighter exotic sword. So swords got introduced to Destiny 1 back in the Taken King as well. And once we got introduced to swords for the first time, it was pretty cool. Everyone was excited about getting swords added into the game, just because the only time we ever interacted with swords was back in Crota's End during a raid, or back when you could use swords in patrol when it was leading up to Crota's End coming out. So other than that, we didn't have any experience with using swords, but adding swords into the game with different abilities, different special attacks was really fun. And again, there was a quest tied to acquiring this one, so you had to go through various steps, and this one was a little bit longer and a little bit more time consuming, so it was very satisfying once you were able to acquire some of these exotic swords. But the Raze Lighter specifically is one of my favorites out of the exotic swords, so I really like the attack, the special attack on it. It was very cool. It dealt out a lot of damage, and it was also solar, so I really like the visuals around it, how there was flames around your sword itself, so that was really cool as well. But a very effective sword, very good for dealing out a ton of damage in PvE on bosses or any enemy in general. So I really like this sword a lot, and that is my number 3 favorite exotic weapon. Moving on to my number 2 favorite exotic weapon, we got the Icebreaker exotic sniper rifle. So the Icebreaker is definitely going to make my top 5 exotic weapons, just because it's a very useful weapon back when it first came out in year 1 of Destiny. It was very fun. It was such a unique weapon just because it was able to regenerate ammo. And when ammo was very scarce in endgame PvE activities such as the raid and even Nightfall sometimes, it was very helpful to have this weapon in your arsenal just because you were able to switch to it or use it in general and always have ammo to spare to deal damage to bosses, to wipe out enemies. And it was a very fun weapon. I know there was a lot of cheeses with this weapon because you could get in certain spots with it and never have to engage your enemies or the bosses. But overall, I thought it was a very cool weapon. It was a very unique looking weapon as well. And besides all that, it was my very first exotic weapon that I ever got as a drop. So that's why Icebreaker will always be one of my favorite weapons no matter what. And then finally, for my number 1 favorite exotic weapon from Destiny 1, we got the Gjallarhorn exotic rocket launcher. So the Gjallarhorn is definitely one of the most infamous weapons from Destiny 1. Throughout Destiny 1's lifespan, it's been one of the most sought after weapons. Maybe not in year 2 just because you weren't able to bring it up to the current light level at the time, but back in year 1 of Destiny 1, Gjallarhorn was one of the most sought after weapons. There were a lot of people that wouldn't even allow you to play raids with them just because you didn't have this weapon and you needed this weapon to deal damage to bosses like Crota in the Crota's End raid. So this weapon was very infamous. It was actually sold in the 2nd week of Destiny's lifespan, and back then nobody knew what the best weapons were, nobody knew what the best armor were, and a lot of people didn't end up purchasing this from Zur when he brought it on week 2 of Destiny 1. So the reason why I chose Gjallarhorn as my favorite weapon was because I always had fun using it. It was such a powerful weapon, probably the best exotic to ever be put into Destiny up to this point. So it was very fun to use. I really liked the uniqueness of the weapon. There was Wolfpack rounds that came out of it as well, and that's what made it so powerful, because the Wolfpack rounds were equally as powerful as the explosion of the rocket itself. So a very fun weapon. I also like the look of it as well. It looked pretty cool with the wolves on it, and it was just such a fun and easy weapon to use and deal out a ton of damage to help you beat a lot of PvE encounters, as well as being effective in a Crucible as well. So I really like Gjallarhorn overall. I was really happy when they finally brought it back in year 3 with Rise of Iron and bringing back a new Iron version, a look of it. So that was pretty cool as well. But overall, Gjallarhorn was my favorite exotic weapon from Destiny 1. I also was really lucky, that's why, to get Gjallarhorn. I got it pretty early on. I got it way before Crota's End came out. So I was definitely well prepared for Crota's End before it came out in the Dark Below DLC. But anyways, that's my top 5 favorite exotic weapons from Destiny 1. Now let me know your guys' top 5 in the comments section down below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!